The audience was packed, over 300 people crammed into seats, waiting for the show to begin. It was 1971, and this was one of the biggest talk shows in America. The Harold Stratton Hour, prime time. Millions watching live across the country. And tonight's guest was one of the most controversial figures in the world, Muhammad Ali. The man who had been stripped of his heavyweight title. The man who refused to fight in Vietnam. The man half of America loved, and the other half wanted to see destroyed. But nobody, not the audience, not the producers, not even Ali himself, knew what was about to happen. Because in less than 20 minutes, this interview would become the most talked about moment in television history. Not because of a fight, not because of violence, but because of 7 words. 7 calm, quiet, devastating words that would expose a racist host on Lev TV and teach the world a lesson about real power. Let me take you back to that night. The host, Harold Stratton, stood backstage adjusting his tie in the mirror. He was confident, cocky even. Harold was known for 2 things, charming celebrities and destroying anyone he didn't respect. And he had made it very clear, to his producers, to his staff, to anyone who would listen, that he did not respect Muhammad Ali. This guy thinks he's some kind of hero, Harold had said during rehearsal. But he's just a draft dodger with a big mouth. And tonight, I'm going to show the world exactly what he is. His producers warned him, Harold, be careful. Ali's smart. If you push too hard, this could backfire. Harold laughed. Backfire? The man punches people for a living. You think he can outsmart me on live television? He had no idea. Meanwhile, in the green room, Muhammad Ali sat quietly. No entourage, no bodyguards. No managers hovering around him, just him, wearing a simple black suit, hands folded, eyes calm. One of the assistants knocked on the door. Mr. Ali, we're ready for you. Ali stood, took a deep breath, and walked toward the stage. As he passed through the hallway, he could hear the audience, some clapping, some whispering, some silent. He knew what they were thinking. Some saw him as a hero, some saw him as a traitor, and some just wanted to see him humiliated. Ali had been through worse. He had been called every name imaginable, threatened, attacked, exiled from the sport he loved. But he had learned something that most people never learn. Your power isn't in how you react to respect. It's in how you respond to disrespect. And tonight, the world was about to see that lesson in action. The lights dimmed. The band played the intro music. Harold Stratton walked onto the stage, waving to the audience, flashing his trademark smile, perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect suit. He was the picture of success, or at least, that's what he wanted people to believe. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Harold's voice boomed through the studio. Tonight we have a very special guest. He paused for effect. A man who needs no introduction. A man who has made headlines not just in the boxing ring, but in courtrooms, in protests, and in controversy. Some of the audience laughed. Others stayed quiet. Please welcome Cassius Clay. The applause was mixed, polite, hesitant, uncomfortable. And then Muhammad Ali walked out, calm, steady, head held high. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He didn't play to the crowd. He just walked to his seat and sat down. Harold extended his hand. Ali shook it firm, brief, professional. And then Harold said something that set the tone for everything that followed. Welcome, Cassius. So glad you could join us. Ali paused, just for a second. Then he spoke. Quiet, clear, unmistakable. My name is Muhammad Ali. The audience murmured. Harold chuckled, loud, dismissive, rehearsed. Oh yes, of course. I forget. You changed your name, didn't you?
I didn't change it. Claimed it.
Harold smirked. Right. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about tonight. But the way he said it, the tone, the look in his eyes, the subtle sneer made it clear. This wasn't going to be an interview. It was going to be an ambush. The camera zoomed in. The red recording lights blinked on, and Harold Stratton leaned back in his chair like a king on a throne, ready to tear down the man sitting across from him. But what he didn't know, what nobody in that studio knew, was that Muhammad Ali had already won. Because while Harold was preparing to attack, Ali was preparing to teach, and the lesson he was about to deliver would echo for decades. Before we continue, I need to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this message is reaching. And if you've ever been disrespected just because someone thought they were better than you. If you've ever been judged for your name, your beliefs, your choices. If you've ever had to stay calm while someone tried to break you. Let me take you back a few weeks before that night. Muhammad Ali was broke, not struggling, Not a little tight on cash. Broke, stripped of his boxing title. Banned from the sport for 3 years, no income. No endorsements. No way to fight his way back. All because he refused to go to Vietnam. I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong, he had said. No Viet Cong ever called me the N-word. That statement cost him everything. His championship belt. His passport. His ability to make a living. But it also made him a symbol. To some, he was a coward who betrayed his country. To others, he was a hero who stood for principle over profit. And the media. They were obsessed with him. Every newspaper. Every magazine. Every talk show wanted a piece of Muhammad Ali. That's when the Harold Strattenhauer came calling. Harold's producers pitched it to the network executives. Imagine this: Muhammad Ali live on prime time. Controversial. Guaranteed ratings. The executives loved it. Harold. He loved it even more, because he saw an opportunity, not to interview Ali, to destroy him. Harold had built his career on one simple formula: make famous people look foolish, and the audience will love you for it. He had done it to actors, musicians, politicians, but Ali, that would be his biggest trophy yet. I'm going to expose him. Harold told his staff during a meeting. This guy thinks he's untouchable. But put him under pressure, ask the right questions, and he'll crack. They all do. One of his producers hesitated. Harold, Ali's different. He's sharp. If you go too hard, this could backfire. Harold waved him off. The man punches people for a living. You really think he can outsmart me with words? Big mistake. When Ali's team received the invitation, they were cautious. Don't do it, one of his advisors said. Stratton's a snake. He'll twist everything you say. He'll make you look bad. And there's nothing you can do about it once you're on that stage. Ali listened quietly. Then he smiled. That's exactly why I have to go. What? Because if I don't, people will think I'm afraid. They'll think I'm hiding. And I'm not about to let anyone think I'm afraid of words. His manager sighed. Ali, this isn't a boxing ring. You can't just knock him out if things go wrong. Ali's eyes sharpened. I don't need to knock him out. I just need to stand firm and let him show the world who he really is. And that was it. The decision was made. Muhammad Ali would walk into Harold Stratton's studio. No script. No safety net. No second chances. Just him, his truth, and a microphone. The night before the interview, Ali sat alone in his hotel room. He didn't rehearse answers. He didn't prepare clever comebacks. He just prayed. And he reminded himself of something his mother once told him. Baby, the world will try to make you small, but you were born a king, don't ever forget that. The next evening, he walked into that studio, calm, confident, ready. He had no idea Harold was planning to humiliate him on national television. But even if he did know, it wouldn't have changed a thing. Because Muhammad Ali didn't come to win an argument. He came to stand for something bigger than himself. And what happened next would prove that sometimes, the quietest voice in the room is the most powerful. Millions of people across America had tuned in. Families gathered around television sets in living rooms. Bar patrons turned their stools toward the screen. Even people who hated Ali couldn't look away. This was must-see TV. Harold Stratton sat across from Muhammad Ali, legs crossed, leaning back like a man who owned the world. He started with a smile. So, Muhammad, and I'll use that name since you prefer it. Let's talk about your situation. My situation? Yes. You're no longer the heavyweight champion. You're no longer allowed to box. You're facing jail time. Some would say you threw your entire career away. Ali nodded slowly. Some would say that. And what would you say? I'd say I chose my soul over a title. Harold smirked. Your soul. That's poetic. But let's be honest, you didn't just refuse to serve your country. You made a spectacle of it. You turned it into a publicity stunt. The audience murmured. Ali's expression didn't change. Standing for what you believe in isn't a stunt, Harold. It's called conviction. Conviction. Harold laughed, loud mocking, meant for the audience. Or cowardice. The word hung in the air like smoke. Some people in the audience gasped. Others nodded in agreement. Ali stared at Harold for a long moment, not angry, not defensive, just watching. You think refusing to kill people I have no problem with is cowardice. I think running from your duty is cowardice. Yes. I didn't run, Harold. I stood still while the whole country tried to push me. There's a difference. Harold leaned forward now, his smile fading. You stood still. You stood still while real men went to war and died for your freedom. Real men also have the freedom to say no to a war they don't believe in. That's what freedom means. Harold's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to guests who didn't back down. He tried a different angle. Let's talk about your religion. The way he said the word slow, dripping with disdain, made it clear what he really thought. You converted to Islam, changed your name, joined the Nation of Islam. Do you really believe in all that, or is it just another way to get attention? Ali's voice stayed calm. I believe in God. I believe in justice. I believe in standing up for my people. If that bothers you, that's your problem, not mine. Your people. Harold repeated the words like they were poison. And who exactly are your people, Cassius? He said the old name on purpose, a deliberate insult, a test to see if Ali would break. The audience went quiet. Everyone felt it, the shift in the room. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a confrontation. Ali took a slow breath. My people are anyone who's been told they're less than human. Anyone who's been judged by their skin, their name, their faith. Anyone who refuses to bow just because someone thinks they should. His words cut through the tension like a blade. Harold tried to laugh it off. Well, that's very inspirational. But let's talk facts, not feelings. You broke the law. You were convicted. You're a criminal. How do you justify that? I don't justify it. I accept it. Because some things are worth going to jail for. Like what? Your ego. Like my conscience. Harold's smile was gone now. His voice turned cold. Your conscience, your beliefs, your people. You talk a lot about what you stand for, Cassius. But what have you actually accomplished? You lost your title. You lost your career. You lost everything. Ali didn't flinch. I didn't lose anything, Harold. I sacrificed it. There's a difference. Is there?
Yeah.
When you lose something, it's taken from you. When you sacrifice something, you give it willingly, and I gave up a title so I could keep my soul. The audience erupted. Some clapped. Some booed. Some sat in stunned silence. Harold's face turned red. He had thrown everything at Ali, insults, accusations, mockery, and Ali hadn't broken, hadn't yelled, hadn't cursed, hadn't walked off. He just sat there calm, dignified, unshakable. And that made Harold angrier than anything else. Because he realized something in that moment. He wasn't in control anymore. And if he wanted to regain it, he'd have to go further, darker, meaner, so he did. Harold Stratton sat forward in his chair. His smile was gone. His charm had vanished. Now there was only anger, and something worse, something uglier. He had tried to break Ali with questions, with accusations, with mockery. None of it worked. So now, he was going to try something else. Something he knew would get a reaction. Harold's voice dropped low, cold, deliberate, venomous. Let me ask you something, Cassius. He used the old name again. On purpose. Do you really think a man like you belongs in the same room as civilized people? The studio went silent. Not the kind of silence where people are thinking. The kind of silence where people stop breathing. Someone in the audience gasped. A cameraman lowered his lens slightly, unsure if he should keep filming. One of the producers backstage whispered into her headset. Did he just? Yes, he did. Harold didn't stop. I mean, you walk in here with your new name, your new religion, your new attitude. But at the end of the day, you're still just. He paused. The pause was intentional. He wanted the audience to fill in the blank. He wanted them to know exactly what he meant, even if he didn't say the word out loud. Ali sat completely still. His hands rested calmly on the armrests of his chair. His face showed no emotion. But his eyes were sharp, focused, locked on Harold like a boxer studying his opponent before the bell rings. Harold leaned back, satisfied with himself. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You can dress it up however you want, but people see through it. The audience was divided. Some sat frozen in shock. Others nodded quietly, agreeing with Harold. A few people looked around nervously, waiting to see what would happen next. And then Ali spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire studio like thunder. You want me to react, don't you? Harold blinked. Excuse me, you want me to get angry, to yell, to storm off this stage? That's what you've been trying to do since I sat down. I'm just asking honest questions. No. Ali's voice was calm, but it cut through Harold's words like a knife. You're not asking questions, you're performing. You're trying to humiliate me in front of millions of people, so you can feel powerful. Harold's face turned red. I don't need to humiliate you. You've done that yourself. Then why are you so angry? The question hung in the air. Harold opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. He had no answer. Ali continued, his tone still calm, still steady. See, Harold, you think respect is something you only give to people who look like you, talk like you, think like you, But respect isn't conditional. It's universal. And the fact that you don't understand that tells me everything I need to know about you. The audience was completely silent now. Some people sat with their mouths open. Others had tears in their eyes. A woman in the third row whispered to her husband. He's destroying him without even raising his voice. Harold tried to regain control. Well, I think we've heard enough from. But before he could finish, someone in the audience stood up, an older black man in a suit. He started clapping, slowly at first, then louder, then another person stood, and another. Within seconds, half the audience was on their feet applauding. Not for Harold, for Allie. Harold's face went pale. He looked around the studio at the cameras, at the producers, at the audience, and realized what was happening. He was losing. On his own show, in front of millions of people, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. One of the producers rushed onto the stage and whispered something in Harold's ear. Harold's eyes went wide. He looked at Allie, then back at the producer. What do you mean? The producer handed him a piece of paper. Harold, read it, and his hands started shaking. This can't be. It is. Read it. Harold looked up at Allie, his face a mixture of fear and disbelief. Because what he just found out changed everything. And what happened next, nobody in that studio would ever forget. The producer's voice was urgent, almost panicked. Mr. Stratton, we need to go to commercial. Harold looked confused, still holding the piece of paper in his trembling hands. What? No, we're in the middle of. Now, Harold. The tone left no room for argument. The cameras cut away. The on-air lights blinked off. A pre-recorded commercial started playing on television screens across America, something about laundry detergent. But inside the studio, chaos was unfolding. The audience murmured loudly, confused. What's happening? Why did they stop? As the show over, Allie sat calmly in his chair, watching everything unfold with quiet curiosity. He didn't know what was happening either. But he had a feeling it had something to do with him. A man in an expensive gray suit walked onto the stage, tall, mid-50s, carrying a leather briefcase. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew he had power. Behind him were two younger men, also in suits, also carrying documents. The lead man walked straight to Harold and extended his hand. Mr. Stratton, I'm Jonathan Pierce, General Counsel for the network. Harold's face went pale. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Privately? Harold glanced at Ollie, then back at the attorney. Can this wait until after? No, Bo. Jonathan Pierce gestured toward the side of the stage. Harold stood slowly, his legs shaky, and followed the attorney off camera. The audience watched in confused silence. Allie remained seated, hands folded, expression neutral, but inside he was paying very close attention. Backstage, away from the microphones, Jonathan Pierce opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents. Mr. Stratton, do you know what these are? Harold glanced at them. Legal papers. 14 of them. Filed in the last 2 hours. Complaints. About what? Jonathan's eyes were ice cold. About your behavior on this show. Your language. Your treatment of Mr. Allie. Harold scoffed. People complain all the time. That's part of television. These aren't regular complaints, Harold. These are from sponsors. The words hit Harold like a punch to the gut. What? 3 of our largest advertisers just called the network. They're threatening to pull their funding if you continue this interview the way you've been conducting it. Harold's mouth went dry. That's ridiculous. I'm just doing my job. Your job is to interview guests. Not attack them, not insult them, and certainly not to make racially charged statements on live television. I didn't say anything. You implied it. And that's enough. Jonathan handed Harold another document. This is from the board of directors. Effective immediately, any discriminatory language or behavior on air will result in your termination. This is your final warning. Harold stared at the paper, his hands shaking. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, and so is the network. We've built our reputation on integrity. You're jeopardizing that? One of the younger attorneys stepped forward. Mr. Stratton, we're not asking you to apologize. We're telling you. Either you finish this interview with professionalism and respect, or we pull the plug right now and you're done. Harold looked back toward the stage, where Allie still sat waiting. And if I refuse? Jonathan's expression didn't change. Then you'll be looking for a new job by morning. Harold walked back onto the stage like a man in a daze. His confidence was gone. His smirk had vanished. He looked like a boxer who just took a hit he didn't see coming. Jonathan Pierce followed him and approached Allie. Mr. Ali, I'm Jonathan Pierce, attorney for the network. On behalf of everyone here, I want to apologize for the way you've been treated tonight." Ali looked up at him, surprised. "Apologize?" "Yes. You were invited here in good faith, and you were disrespected. If you choose to leave right now, we completely understand. We'll compensate you for your time, and we'll make a public statement supporting you." The audience leaned forward, hanging on every word. Ali thought for a moment. Then he looked at Harold, who stood frozen, humiliated, powerless. And Ali smiled. "I appreciate that, Mr. Pierce. But I'm not going anywhere." Jonathan blinked. "You want to continue?" "Absolutely. May I ask why?" Ali's voice was calm, but his words carried weight. "Because if I leave now, people will think he won. They'll think he broke me. And I didn't come here to run. I came here to stand." He looked directly at Harold. "And I'm going to finish what I started." The audience erupted in applause. Jonathan nodded respectfully and stepped off the stage. The cameras turned back on. The on-IR light blinked red, and Muhammad Ali looked straight into the lens. Every single person in that audience was leaning forward, waiting. Harold sat in his chair like a statue, stiff, pale, defeated. But Ali was just getting started. He didn't look at Harold. He looked directly into the camera, directly at the millions of people watching at home. And he spoke. "You know what I've learned about power?" His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. "Most people think power is about how loud you can yell, how hard you can hit, how much fear you can create in someone else. But that's not power. That's just noise." The audience was completely still. Real power is about how calm you stay when the world tries to break you, how steady you remain when someone tries to tear you down, how much grace you show when someone shows you none. He paused. Let the words sink in. "Tonight, this man tried to humiliate me." Ali gestured toward Harold, who sat frozen, unable to meet his eyes. "He called me by a name I don't use. He mocked my faith. He questioned my courage. He implied no. He stated that I don't belong in civilized company. And you know what?" Ali smiled softly. "I'm not angry." The audience murmured in surprise. "I'm not angry because anger gives power to the person who hurt you. And I refuse to give him that. See, when someone disrespects you, they're not showing you who you are. They're showing you who they are." Ali turned slightly toward Harold now. And tonight, Harold showed the entire world exactly who he is. Harold's face was red. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. He tried to speak. I just want to say, no." Ali's voice was gentle but firm. "You've said enough. Now it's my turn." The audience held its breath. "You wanted to know if I belong here, Harold. If a man like me deserves respect. If I have the right to sit in the same room as civilized people. So let me answer that question for you." Ali stood up slowly, not aggressive, not threatening, just standing. "I've been called every name you can imagine. I've been threatened, attacked, stripped of everything I worked for. I've been told I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not American enough. But I'm still here." His voice grew stronger. "I'm still standing, and no amount of disrespect, no amount of insults, no amount of hatred will ever make me bow." The audience began to applaud, softly at first, then louder. Then someone stood, then another. Within seconds, the entire studio was on its feet, a standing ovation that shook the walls. Harold sat alone in his chair, head down, hands trembling. But Ali wasn't done. He walked over to Harold, stood right in front of him, extended his hand. The audience gasped. Harold looked up, eyes wide with shock. "What, why?" Ali's voice was quiet now, meant only for Harold. "Because forgiveness isn't about you, Harold. It's about me. And I refuse to carry hate in my heart." Harold stared at the outstretched hand. For a long moment, he didn't move. The camera zoomed in. The audience was silent again, watching. And then, slowly, Harold reached up and shook Ali's hand. Some people in the audience booed. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted revenge. But Ali turned to them. "Don't boo him." His voice was firm but kind. "Don't boo him. Teach him. Show him that respect isn't something you earn by being perfect. It's something every human being deserves just by being human." The booing stopped. Ali looked back at Harold one last time. "I hope you learn from this. I really do." Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The cameras followed him. The audience stood and applauded, some crying, some cheering, some just staring in awe, and Harold Stratton sat alone under the bright studio lights, humiliated, exposed, defeated, not by fists, not by insults, not by violence, but by grace, by dignity, by the quiet, unshakable power of a man who refused to become what the world tried to make him. As Ali reached the door, he stopped, turned back one last time, and said 7 words that would be quoted for decades. True power is silent. True respect is earned. Then he walked out, and television was never the same. The next morning, every newspaper in America ran the story. The New York Times, Ali defeats host without throwing a punch. The Washington Post, the most powerful interview in television history. The Chicago Tribune, Muhammad Ali teaches America a lesson in dignity. Even international papers picked it up. The interview had become more than just a TV moment. It had become a cultural turning point. Within 48 hours, Harold Stratton issued a public statement, not through his publicist, not through the network. He did it himself, standing in front of cameras, reading from a handwritten note. I was wrong, not just in what I said, but in who I was that night. I let my prejudice, my arrogance, and my need for control blind me to basic human decency. Muhammad Ali showed me what real strength looks like, and I failed to meet that standard. I apologize to Mr. Ali, I apologize to everyone who watched, and I apologize to myself, because I know I'm better than what I showed the world. His voice cracked at the end. Some people accepted the apology. Many didn't. But it was a start. 3 months later, Harold Stratton stepped down from the Harold Stratton Oar. He didn't retire. He didn't disappear. He spent the next 2 years working quietly with civil rights organizations, listening more than he spoke, learning what he should have known all along. Years later, in a 1983 interview, a reporter asked him, "Do you regret what you said to Muhammad Ali that night?" Harold was older now, grayer, quieter. He paused for a long time before answering. Every single day. But I'm grateful?
Yes.
Because he gave me something I didn't deserve, a chance to learn, a chance to change, a chance to become a better man. And that gift, that grace, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to pass it on. Muhammad Ali never spoke about the interview again. Not in public, not in private. When reporters asked him about it, he'd smile and say, "That night wasn't about me and Harold. It was about showing people that you don't have to become what someone else wants you to be. You can be disrespected and still walk away with your dignity. You can be attacked and still respond with grace. You can win without ever throwing a punch," and that's exactly what he did. The lesson, respect isn't something you show only to people who deserve. It's something you show because you deserve to be the kind of person who gives it. When someone disrespects you, you have 2 choices: stoop to their level and become just like them, or rise above and show them what strength really looks like. Ali chose to rise, and in doing so, he didn't just defend himself. He defended everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. Everyone who's been judged for their name, their faith, their choices. Everyone who's been disrespected just because someone else thought they could. He showed the world that true power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's unshakable. And it's something no one can ever take away from you. So the next time someone tries to tear you down, the next time someone mocks you, insults you, disrespects you, remember Muhammad Ali. Remember that night. And remember this: the greatest victory isn't proving you're right. It's staying true to who you are, even when the world wants you to be something else. That's power. That's strength. That's legendary. If this story moved you, type respect in the comments. Let's build a community of people who believe in grace over rage, dignity over destruction, and character over cruelty. And tell me, which part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it the insult, the standing ovation, the handshake, the aftermath? Your feedback helps us create even more powerful stories like this one. More legendary content is coming your way soon. Stay strong, stay humble, stay unshakable. We'll see you in the next one.